Hello everyone, Him Tutorial welcomes you to the new session of chapter number 5, that is transfer of heat. The topic which we are going to do today, that is modes of heat, and under this topic we are going to learn the subtopic, that is conduction. So let's recap what we have learned in our earlier video. Earlier we have learned that heat is a form of energy and heat is transferred from one end to the other end of the object. Also it can be transferred between the two objects. So when heat transferred, it always move from hotter end to the colder end, or you can say higher temperature to the lower temperature. On the basis of this concept that heat transfer from higher temperature to lower temperature, the modes of heat are categorized into three types. So the modes of heats are first is conduction, second is convection, and the third is radiation. The conduction occurs in solids. The convection occurs in liquids and gases. And the radiation is from distant source. If I talk about the conduction, then conduction means the transfer of heat between the solid, that is from one particle to another, which is very close contact with each other. If I talk about the convection, then the movement of the heat take place from the particle to other particle by just moving of the particle from one place to another. And if I talk about the radiation, then in case of radiation, the heat is gained by any object from the distant source. For example, the earth, if I draw here earth and this is the sun, so sun is giving its energy in the form of heat and light. There is no direct contact between these two things. So this type of transfer of heat, that is called as the radiation. So conduction, convection and radiation, we are going to discuss about the first. If I talk about conduction, then we had already discussed that conduction takes place in solids, and these solids must be conducting in nature. Okay, so if I talk about conducting solids, then I can take an example of iron rod. If I highlight a diagram of iron rod, we know that iron rod is a solid structure, and in solids the atoms are tightly bounded to each other. I am numbering the atoms 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 just to make it easy for your learning. Okay, now this iron rod has two ends, A and B. Now what will happen? In the beginning, the iron rod is cold because it has no source of heat energy near it. But as I lit a candle near the end A, now what will happen? The end A will start gaining the heat energy, and consequently if end A is start gaining the heat energy, the atoms which are present on the end A, they start heating up. As the atoms or the molecules, they gain the energy, they start vibrating. What they does? They start vibrating. And when they start vibrating, they got excited, then they will transfer the energy from the first molecule to the second molecule. Now in case of solids, atoms can't move. Why atoms can't move? Because solids have definite shape and size. So to transfer the energy from end A to end B, or you can say to make the end B hotter, what the atoms had to do? They have to pass on the energy, they have to pass on their heat energy from the one molecule to the another. Now first molecule start vibrating, it will transfer its vibrations in the form of heat to the second. Now second start vibrating, it will transfer its heat energy in the form of vibrations to the third. Now third will transfer to the fourth, to the fifth, to the sixth, to the seventh, and to the eighth, and like this the whole rod of the iron that will become hot after some time. So in case of solids, the conduction take place. And what is conduction? Conduction is the mode of heat transfer in which the heat is transferred from one end to the other end of the object, or between the two objects when they are in direct contact with each other or without the movement of any molecule. So let's discuss the conditions. What are the conditions for the conduction? First condition, conditions for conduction: the two bodies should be in solid state. Okay, this is the first condition, that whensoever we are going to discuss about the conduction, then conduction would be discussed only in case of solids. So the two bodies in which the conduction is going on or the heat transfer is going on, then these two bodies should be in solid state. Its second point is they should be in direct contact. Okay, so the two solids or the two objects in which the conduction is going on, they should be in direct contact. As here we have discussed that the iron rod and the candle both are solid in nature, and when we lit this candle, it will become a heat source, and this heat source when comes in contact with the iron rod directly, okay, then only after some time the heat transfer and iron rod become hot. The third point, which is the third condition, that is the two objects should be at different temperature. If we talk about this example, then in this iron rod, first of all the end A become hot, and if end A become hot, then very slowly the heat energy transferred from one molecule to another and it reaches to the end B. So the heat transfer should always be in the objects which is at different temperature, means one is little bit higher temperature and the other should be at little bit lower temperature. It is not like that one object should be hot and one object should be cold. It is always not like that. But what is there? There should be difference in temperature, means one object should be at little bit higher temperature and the other object should be at little bit lower temperature as compared to the first object. So now we will discuss about the conductors and insulators, that what are conductors, what are insulators, and how they are helpful in our daily life. If I talk about conductors, then conductors are those which can conduct the heat easily. So they can conduct the heat easily. Okay, and insulators are those materials which do not conduct the heat easily. So if I give an example of conductor, then iron, copper, they are the good example of the conductors. Okay, and if I talk about insulators, then wood, rubber, air, they are the example of the insulators. Now let's relate these conductors and insulators to our daily life. If I talk about the applications of the conductors and insulators, then in case of conductors, you have seen that the utensils in which we cook our food, they are made up of iron. But if I talk about the insulator, then insulator are those materials which do not conduct heat. So again, if I take an example of cooking utensil, then the body of the cooking utensil, that is made up of conducting material, okay, iron, steel, and the handle of that utensil, that is made up of insulating material. Why insulating material? So that it should be easy for us to handle that utensil while cooking, because this insulating material do not conduct heat and it avoids the accidents of having burns on the hands. And we can also easily carry out these type of utensils while cooking if they have insulating material on their handles. If I talk about another example, then in case of woolen clothes which we wear in winter, so in these woolen clothes air got trapped, and as we know that air is also insulating material, so that's why the woolen clothes will preserve the warmthness of our body and we feel warm during the severe winters. Let's take another example which is also related to our daily life. Why the vehicles which are run on petrol and diesel, they are coated with the insulating materials? Because if they are not coated with the insulating materials, then this highly inflammable petrol and diesel, they will catch fire and there will be drastic results of that. So to avoid these bad results or to avoid this type of accidents, the vehicles are coated with the insulating materials. So like this, these conductors and insulators plays a very important role in our daily life and they help us a lot in doing our daily work. So this is all about our topic, our subtopic, that is conduction. Let's recap very quickly what we have done today. The three modes, that is conduction, convection and radiation. Conduction occurs in solid, convection occurs in liquids and gases, and radiation occurs from the distant source, in which we have discussed the example of sun and the earth. So this is all about today's session. I hope you understood all the things very well. So up to our next video, keep watching, keep learning, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.